up. Episode 40. I thought I had 35 of these episodes in me, but I eked out 5 extra ones, which is roughly 15 other comics that I had forgotten about. But this is the final episode of these types of episodes. Maybe I'll do something like this in the future. But I have some plans for the next evolution of this podcast following this episode. But if you guys haven't listened to this before, then what is this? What are you doing? What is this podcast about? Well, I'll tell you. This podcast is about celebrating Austin stand-up comedians, talking about things I remember about them, any first impressions, any funny jokes that I can remember from them, in an effort to inject some positivity into the stand-up comedy scene while we all wait to get back out there in full force. I am seeing a lot more shows coming up, outdoor shows. I did make a pinky promise to myself that I wasn't going to do any sets until I finished these types of episodes, which means that I've freed myself to go out and start doing these sets. But enough about that. What I'm already 2 minutes in. This isn't what it's about. What this episode's going to be about is 3 of what I would consider to be the top comics in Austin or out of Austin recently. And here they are, not in a specific order, but I'd like to talk about Chris Cuba. I thought it was Cubas for a long time. Gerald Gooby. I'd like to talk about Andrew Dismukes. Guy outside talking about fucking somebody up. And then I'd like to talk about Michael Priest. So let's get right into it. Chris Cuba. So he is someone that I heard about before I started doing comedy. I would see him around town and people would point him out as somebody who was known in Austin, but I never knew what it was for. And then once I started doing stand-up, his name came up a few times, and then I was like, oh, I recognize that dude. I've seen him before. Just never knew what he did. I've only seen him It's getting way more fired up outside. Hope those guys are safe. I've only seen him perform once. Saw him at Cap City. It might have been a Punch Comedy set, I believe. Punch Comedy sets were awesome too. Shout out to the guy who put those on, maybe Jay Whitecotton, I think. I didn't never see him perform, so I didn't go over his set, but he's got to be good, I'm sure. So Chris Cuba, I remember it being a weird experience watching him because it was unlike any other stand-up comedian I'd seen in Austin up to that point. It was very conversational. It very much felt like being connected to somebody on stage where it wasn't just watching someone's act. It kind of felt like at any point you could just say, hey, Chris, what do you think about this? And he would be like, well, here, let me give you this about that. He wasn't really interacting with the crowd that much, but it just felt very comfortable and very, maybe reciprocal wouldn't be the right word. It felt reciprocal, even though people weren't talking back. We're not talking back. Got to work on my diction. But, and I remember just thinking to myself, wow, there's this guy's on a different level. It's on a different level than a lot of the people that I see out at sets and stuff like that. But I haven't met him, so I don't have any interesting stories to talk about other than just seeing him on stage and thinking he was really good. So shout out to you, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Andrew Dismukes, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, actually just I think just recently was announced as like a full-on cast member of SNL. I think he was a writer beforehand. I don't know if they've had any writers or even cast members or anybody on SNL from Austin, Texas. So shout out to you, man. It seems like that is an unprecedented thing that has happened. And if there has been somebody from Austin, just you can correct me. I don't care. I've been wrong about things before. But yeah, so Andrew Andrew was one of the first, or the first show I saw in the big room at Cap City. It was him, Kyle Castillo, Andrew Murphy. I think there was one other comic. I'm sorry, whoever the other guy was. I can't remember your name at the moment. Kyle Castillo was just a madman on stage. It was one of the most chaotic type sets I've ever seen. It was funny. He kept doing a drop over the loudspeaker that was really funny. But yeah, so I knew that they had shows there. This was early on too, so in my stand-up, quote unquote career. But this was early on, so I looked at the website and was like, oh, I'll go check that out. And then I found out he was from Austin, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I saw Andrew. Andrew did really well. He's funny. I talk about him on another podcast or another episode. But I remember when Andrew Dismukes went up, he had such an original cadence. Even though he's from Austin, he sounds like he talks like he's from Chicago in a way. He has this the thing is, I'm going to do a terrible impression of him, but I can't do an impression of him without doing one of his jokes, and I don't want to do one of his jokes, but I remember at one point he was saying, what pisses me off? It was just really funny the way he hits words. He has a couple really funny jokes he has is I've seen him open. I also saw him at Fallout when he came in town. Around one of the holidays, I remember. But he has a joke. His old Mama joke is really funny. His and the other one that I really liked was the he's got the joke about watching old shows with his grandma. And then he has the other joke about, my mind is blanking. I was literally just thinking about it. Hang on. Hold tight. Oh, about peeing in a toilet. I don't want to give away the punchlines of it, but that's a really good one too. To me, he kind of sounds a little bit like Sandler, but he looks a little bit like who does he look like? He's got a boyish look to him. I don't think that would be offensive to say, but he's very youthful. He looks very young, which is great because you can have a great comedy mind, but also look young. So it works out for him. Genetics have done him good for the field that he has chosen. That's weird. That's too many comments on somebody's looks. But yeah, he's super fucking funny. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. And he's doing great things. So shout out to that dude, man. Hope you're doing well. I feel like you're going to be busy. So you probably won't ever hear this. But this guy, the next guy, there is a possibility he'd hear it. I might actually even send it over to him. Michael Priest. So I saved him for the last episode because I think that of all the sets that I've seen of all the comedians in Austin, he has made me laugh the hardest. And he's also written a lot of jokes where I'm like, damn it, I wish I would have wrote that joke. He has the joke about his neighbors having sex. He has a joke about condoms that's really funny. And what are some other ones? I remember he did two sets that stick out in my mind. The first time I saw him, I think he actually didn't do that great. He was at Cherrywood. And then when I saw him at Velveeta Room, I was like, oh, okay, I've seen this guy before. And then he goes up and somebody yelled out because it was like while the Astros were playing in the finals or whatever. They were playing the Nationals. And he walked up and he was, oh no, it was Texas. It must have been Texas because he always wears a Texas hat. Anyhow, he went up on stage and somebody goes, yeah, Texas. And he goes, whoa, take it easy. I'm only wearing this because my Nationals hat is in the wash. And it just, the room burst out laughing. And then throughout the rest of the set, it was just like they were waiting for opportunities to fall out of their chair. And the mic was having some kind of weird problem that night. And it was giving off this like alien-like noise. And every once in a while when it would happen, he would stop and look up in the air. And everybody loved it. It was just hilarious. It was like the first time I'd ever seen somebody like really kill a room. And then I saw him at Cap City and like, I'm guessing other people were laughing, but I was personally laughing so hard that I wouldn't have known if anybody else was laughing. His delivery is really funny. He kind of reminds me of Norm a little bit. I'm probably not the right person to say that since I kind of sound like Norm a little bit, but he's got that Norm kind of presence. But his delivery is really funny. Like he says stuff and it's crazy, right? Like it's kind of like that kind of delivery. His cadence is really enjoyable to listen to. That's a hard thing as a comic to pick up your own original cadence, because then you can almost like train the. Sarah Klein has a very specific cadence. She's another stand-up comedian in Austin. You can go see the episode I did about her. But she has a very specific cadence. So what you do is when you have a great cadence like that is you kind of teach the audience when to laugh, like when to look. And you can still disguise the punchlines. I mean, you still have to. But those cadences make it easier to follow. And when you have a good cadence, some people I've heard that have really good cadences, but their jokes are bad. And some people I've had that have bad jokes, but good cadences. So like there's a balance to be had for sure. But when you can find that balance, man, that's a potent combination. There's a potent combination, man. Now there's just a guy singing outside. He went from like yelling at somebody and cussing about to fight, from what I could tell, and now he's singing. So 2020, baby. But yeah, shout out to Michael, man. Hope you're doing well. I think I met him like once or twice out in the scene. But that's it. So those are the 40 episodes. Big thanks to Mark Pena for mixing 95% of these. I told him it was only going to be 35, so he is doing 5 extra than what I had asked, and it was very cool of him. If you're a stand-up comedian, and this is the first time you're hearing this podcast, go search the YouTube page. I got everybody's names in there. I got the whole database. So the chance I already talked about you in there. So search in there. If you're a stand-up comedian and we've talked to each other before, but I didn't do one about you, I apologize. For one reason or another, it just didn't. I didn't have enough to feel like really throwing an episode out there. I wanted to try to avoid talking about people and just saying like, hey, this person, I remember them. They're good. So doesn't mean I don't like you. Just means that I don't have enough substance to draw from. So that's it. Hope you guys stick around for the next round, the next iteration of this podcast. For the time being, stay safe, stay healthy. Stand-up comedy's coming back. Have a great night.